I wanted to transition over to talk about, staffing and staffing issues and what do we do as a business. We just had our town hall meeting last night with Australia, Hong Kong, New Zealand, and a big piece of that was talking about this working from remote and working home, and how do we keep staff morale, and how do we keep our staff not fearing of losing their jobs or so forth. So I invited Lisa Cefali into this conversation so she can help us give some insight about things we could do as a business while we are remote. Maybe Lisa, you could share a little bit about some of the staff morale as well. This is kind of something that just newly popped up, and it was a conversation they all kind of really wanted to know, what can we do, and maybe we can all share some of our best practice here of what we can do in terms of our staffing and staffing issues. So I'm going to hand it over to Lisa as she discusses what we can do as a business during the time of social distancing. Lisa?
Great. Thanks, Erica. Thanks, everyone. So just want to give you some background perspective. I ran a nonprofit for 8 years, so I'm familiar with the world within which you're operating in right now. Currently, as a day job, I with Legacy Bowes, which we are an organization consulting firm. So we help organizations grow. We help them with organizational concerns, obstacles, as well as we assist organizations who don't have HR departments on what to do. So what I'd like to share with you, the conversations we're having today, you have to know that there are conference calls going on like this around the world. So regardless of what your product or service is, regardless of the size of your organization, everyone is having these same conversations, because if you're not in crisis mode now, you will be eventually. It is on a curve. And so it does not appear that any one industry is going to be saved from any of this. So everyone is dealing with the same issues. So what I'd like to do today is I'm just going to share with you I'm going to share with you what we have done internally as Legacy Bowes as a case study. If you could listen to it with opportunity as a means of how could you translate what we're doing to your own firm. And then I'd like to share with you what we can possibly do as a variety tent organization. Okay, so if we all assume, yes, the best time to have created a crisis management plan would have been quite a few years ago, so that you could pull it out today. For those of you who don't have one, you're here. What can you do? So first of all, let's address this phrase of working from home. For those of you who have young employees, most of them do not know how to work from home. Working effectively from home usually happens with experience, work experience. And therefore, as leaders, this is our time to really show that we can define what working from home is. Providing them actual tasks and projects to do, because working from home, it's easy right now in this situation. People have the best of intentions, but they won't work from home. They will, in fact, get caught up in the CNN news, whatever's on, and anxiety will grow. When we talk about anxiety with our employees, everybody will have varying degrees of anxiety. We can't judge. We don't know what one person will fixate on and what one person will not. We are working in an environment where we have multiple generations, and they will surprise you in terms of what the expectations are, what they think is detrimental, and what they believe is not. So it's important that when we think of working from home have you defined what true working from home is? And so what I would suggest is create a schedule for your employees, and perhaps lay out, the reality is I can expect you to work from home for 6 hours a week. Let's be honest, 6 hours a day, not that full 8. Lay out for them when they should be taking their breaks. If you can provide that to them, then they themselves can be constructive in the time that they're having. In terms of communication as well, encourage continual communication. So as much as you may have always not been a micromanager, you're not going to be a micromanager now. You're going to be a caring manager and a caring leader and offer that communication to them. So that was sort of the first phrase that I think too often what we're hearing is we're all working remotely. We all have to work remotely, but what does that really mean? And people get lost, and people don't. People want to feel productive right now. You need to give your employees options so that they can feel productive, because their worst fears are coming through as, I'm going to get laid off tomorrow. And that could end up being a discussion that you end up having, yes, but at this point, they want to be productive. So I'm going to share with you what we've done. So our team of executive search and recruitment, we could work remotely at home 365 days a year, because what we do is we work with clients, we find candidates for them, we do so much of it online and collect information until the very end, where we bring them the final individuals to meet. So what I've done with my team is I set them all up at home. They all have full access to the network. We have every day, we have daily 10:30 to 11:30 in the morning calls. Specifically at 10:30 have been chosen because I need them to feel that they need to get something done on their own between that 8:30 to 10:30 time, but we want to check in. And so what we're checking in on is actual productivity. What are you working on? How's it going? So with our existing work, what are you working on? And that's our 10:30 to 11:30 call. We then have a check-in call at 4 o'clock for 30 minutes. And that call, the conversation is different. Conversation there is, how are things going? What, any obstacles that you've run into? How are you feeling? So that's a softer call that we talk about. What have you heard? What have you seen on the news today? Because we know they're watching their feeds, or they're watching TV, or they're exchanging emails with other people in their industry. So we want to alleviate their anxiety and their thought process of where they're at. As a partner in the firm, I use that point of time to talk about what we've accomplished today, but also what the partners are discussing. Obviously, as partners and senior leaders, whether it's you and your board, we're doing it every Monday. So we're talking about, okay, where are we at this week? What are the conversations we're having? What are we going to have to talk to our team about? We're encouraging continual communication. My plan on this is for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, we're going to do this. What we've also done, so of our 10:30 calls, we're having a complete team meeting once a week. So that's sort of a variation of the theme, where because we've got 3 distinct pieces to our business, we're having everybody once a week so that everybody can share. And we're doing this by Zoom video. And interestingly enough, it's worth it to have everyone's face on the screen. They've made comments that, wow, this feels like we ourselves are on CNN TV. And I said, well, maybe on Friday we're going to have some levity, and I'm going to give you a country, and I'm going to give you a topic, and you're going to just give us a little update. You need to add some of that levity. So as much as you think, wow, 5 hours a week seems to be a lot, we need to keep a gauge on where our employees are at. Now, very specifically, beyond the work they're doing, they each have a research project. This is the time for research and development. This is the time to do some of those other work where they can feel productive, that is necessary work, that perhaps they can do research on. So in our business, it would be, what are some of the other industries that we could be approaching when things get better? What about another person who's working on all our specific target group? We do a lot of work with nonprofit organizations. So someone is looking at all the nonprofit organizations. Someone else is looking at our current clients over the last 6 years. So I've got one person looking at the last 3 years and one person looking at the 3 years before that. Another area that we do work in is career transition. So sadly, we're not looking to exploit our potential customers, but we do know that there will be large amount of clients who may need career transition work. So we're having someone look at that and say, how can we be of service to that industry or that group of industries to say, hey, if push comes to shove, you want to protect your brand. Everyone's going to be disappointed, but if you have to do a career transition, it's better to walk someone out the door in a very respectful manner that you're giving them support than it is simply to let them go and have them think and communicate of how you dealt with employees during this horrible time, versus, when things are great and you bring people on, or when things are great, you just deal with people very well. So the intent there, and I took this lead from a manufacturing company in 2008, where rather than laying off their engineers, they had them all work on R&D. And so when they were able to get out of that curve, they were in fact able to be prepared for new products, new services. So that's where we're at, and what I'm finding is that morale is up, everyone is enthused, we're talking to everyone, people are feeling like they are contributing, and I'm able to gauge where they are at personally as well, because that's going to come into play. In terms of looking at what are some of the options, so let's talk about layoffs. And in terms of layoffs, and if you have to release people, obviously you've got requirements that are state or provincial legislated that you need to fall within, and it's definitely very important to be on top of what those are. But I encourage you to have, when the time comes, have a group discussion with the employees. They may be able to come up with some really creative solutions. Some of the things that we're looking at obviously will be reduced work weeks. If you choose to go to a reduced work week or job share, what I would suggest, if you can pull off 60%, give them 3 days a week and have them overlap on Wednesday. That way they're not in by themselves, or they see themselves as, oh, this is a dying shift. They actually have a day where they can convene together, they can have lunch together. So if you're going to go 3 days a week, if you can, have them overlap, versus, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where all you're ever saying to anybody, even as you move forward and 6 months from now, as you move forward and you're talking to clients, Monday, Wednesday, Friday doesn't work well, because no matter who you're talking to, all you're ever saying is, I'm not in tomorrow. I'm not in tomorrow. In terms of the flexibility, again, if it's simply 5 days a week, but you're going to reduce pay. If you're going to reduce pay, and they're working from home, you could do that. Could you say, reduce pay, but I'm going to give you 4 days a week? So think of each day as being that 20% marker and look at that. The other piece is paid leave. If they find out where their other side is, are they in a position to be able to say, okay, you can do a rotating shift of certain individuals will work for these period of time, and then the next individual can work the next period of time. Let's say 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. That conversation is harder because you think of people who need continual income, but you'd be surprised at depending on where their partners or spouses are at, maybe it can be worked at differently. In terms of expense control, this is a time where everyone will understand expense control. Be really diligent of where your expenses are. Reach out to every single one of your suppliers. See how you can make payment arrangements on their end and say, look, could we extend and not have to pay our bill for another 3 months or another 6 months or every second month? Understanding that everyone will be in the same boat. Everyone will be looking for cash flow. However, depending on what their industry is about, perhaps they can give you some relief as well on that expense control. In terms of our variety donors, so this is a great time to look at all of our spreadsheets and say, wow, what is the percentage of event revenue versus donor revenue? Obviously, this topic has been at every conference that we've talked at. Every nonprofit says the same thing, no matter what industry we're in, is if we can get direct donors versus rely on event revenue, we will be further ahead. Here's an opportunity. If you can go to your event donors right now and say, are they in a position to give you a pass this year? Have you canceled the event and accept a charitable receipt? If you think of corporate donors, corporate sponsors, they are just as much in a dilemma whereby they've already paid the money out. So, us, for example, as Legacy Bows, we support all our clients. We support many gala dinners. We also have to fill those seats. And yes, you generate revenue when I bring people in those seats. But right now, are we in a position there? We've paid out that money. Could we write it off? Yeah, because I won't have the same amount of time that I will be able to attend all those dinners. So if you give me a pass, it's an opportunity where we can focus on our business as we need to, and perhaps you can actually keep all that revenue without incurring the cost of holding an event. Because the reality is, if everyone moves to the fall, let's say the fall opens up, well, you're not going to have multiple events on multiple weeks on the same week. You're going to have multiple events on multiple days. And people will still end up having a table. You're going to have to incur the cost, and people won't be showing up. So this is the time that it's not thinking outside the box. I'm going to challenge you. It's a cube. Turn over that cube and look at things in a totally different way. I don't know if you've ever, all of you go back to your kitchen today, wipe your cabinets, and then once you think they're clean, look at it upside down from the bottom up, and you'll notice that there's areas you've missed. So if anyone has any specific questions, that's all sort of I have to say specifically. I'm not going to comment on your specific labor codes and so forth because I wouldn't know them across all the different provinces and states. However, I would gladly accept phone calls or any questions you have on how to approach this so we can all get this together. And one last comment, I agree. There was a report that came out of South Korea. The biggest impact to flattening this curve are the 20 to 29-year-olds. Whatever we do, we need to keep them inside.
Thank you, Lisa, very much.